So let's see how we can make use of this new async function inside our code. And if we go to the product card first of all, well, we've just got our simple handle add item function and take a look at what's going on in here and what improvements we can make. And ideally what we're trying to do here is clean up our code, centralize our calls to the API inside our basket slice on this occasion, and ensure everything still works as it did before. So what we'll remove here is we're not going to use local state, so I'm going to remove this. But we are going to need to get our status flag from our state. So I'm going to say use app selector, and we'll say state goes to state.basket. And we'll still need the dispatch because we are going to dispatch our asynchronous function. We still use dispatch inside our code there. But what we can do now is remove this function. We're not going to use this anymore. Let's scroll down to the button then and see what we need to do here. Instead of handle add item, we're going to dispatch, and we're going to dispatch our add basket item async, and let's add the closing parenthesis. And what we need to do is pass an object as the parameters. And if we hover over the add basket item async method, we can see that we've got two required arguments that are inside an object. We've got our product ID and our quantity, but really I want the quantity to be optional, and I want to give it a default value of 1 if we do not specify a quantity. So let's make an adjustment in our basket slice and go back up to our method here. So we can set quantity to be optional in the type parameter, and then for the argument we're just going to set that equal to 1 so that we no longer have to specify a quantity here. And we'll head back to the product cards, and we need to put this inside an object, so open some curly brackets, and then we just need to specify the product ID as the property name, so product ID, and we're going to set it to the product.id here. And the error should go away, and for the loading flag what we'll do is we'll specify status, and we'll use includes, and we'll just set this to pending for the time being. So if status includes the word pending, which it will do because that's what we set this to be whilst we're pending loading, then it should show the loading indicator. So let's head over to our browser and see where we stand. Let's just refresh this because it often gets stuck when we're using Redux for some reason. And let's take a look at what's going on inside Redux as we're doing this. So let's just try and rearrange the windows so we can see as much as possible whilst this is going on. And let's go ahead and click a button. So I'm just going to add to cart. And what we did see there was all of the loading indicators activated at the same time. And that's because we're getting this centrally now rather than just working with an individual component. So they all get the same state, and they all think that they need to show the loading indicator. That's something we'll address soon. But there's something interesting that's happened inside our Redux DevTools. And we've got the set basket. We had that when we initialized the load of the application. But what we see now is we've got two actions. We've got one for pending and one for fulfilled. And if we take a look at the state, where we've got the difference between the state prior and afterwards, in the basket status, what's going on here is we're changing from idle to pending add item. And when we go to fulfilled, we get the pending add item going back to idle. But what we should also see inside here is the difference in state between what it was before and what it is now. And because I already had one of those products in my basket, it's only the quantity that's actually changing. And this is Redux working out what it needs to update based on what was there before. If we take a look at our action, what we passed as a payload to this is the full basket with all of the items in. But Redux is smart enough to only work out to update the difference. And that's what our React component is then going to use to update its state. Now, we need to deal with the loading indicator because we loaded up, or we showed that we were loading every single product there, but obviously we're not. But if we go and take a look at our console, let's take a look at what was available in the action that we passed there. And if we take a look at the payloads, well, this is undefined because when we're pending, and if we go back to the code just to clarify this, because you may have expected to see basket there, but If we go back and take a look at what's going on when we're pending, well, we don't have the basket at this point because we haven't fulfilled the API request yet. We don't get the basket until we're at this stage and they're fulfilled, and we're console logging whilst we're in pending. So let's go back and see what we have. So we don't have anything in the payload, but what we do want is the argument. We want to see what product ID we were requesting, and inside the action metadata or meta arg, we have access to the product ID, and that means we can set our status to something specific to the products that we've clicked on. And let's go take a look. If we add the status, the product ID to the status, and we'll just concatenate it on, just as we've done in the past, and we'll say action.meta.arg.productID. And then we can use that to check to see if we should be loading. So we'll go back to the product card and we'll update the loading status to say includes pending add item, and then we'll just concatenate the product.id. And now this loading indicator is going to be specific to the product card that we're clicking on. So let's give this a go and just refresh the page again. And let's pick this boot on the right. Now we can see we're just clicking that particular loading indicator. Perfect. So let's go back and just clean up the console before we move forward, and just in the product card and in the basket slice. So in the product card, let's just removed all of the unused imports, and in the basket slice, let's get rid of that console log to keep things nice and clean. And next we'll go take a look at the remove basket item async method.